critics will say, well, it's the economics. They don't bring in as much revenue. But we learned from women's soccer that if you invest in promoting, in being on commercials, advertising, the viewers
Remember, there was no...
Stop it. You're doing it again. You're doing it again. Comparing apples. Now you're really comparing apples and oranges. This ain't no pear thing. Apples and oranges. You're comparing basically a fledgling, struggling league to the World Cup.
You are now listening to Pree Da Production with your host, Majaro.
What is up, my tribal people? Welcome back to another video on the Pree Da Production YouTube channel. I'm your host and tribal chief, Majaro, aka Midge. And you already know what I'm going to say. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe because we're trying to grow the community. And by sharing this with your friends and family, that goes a long way in helping us do that. And leaving a super thanks would be very much appreciated. Now, let's get into it. So, if you guys didn't know, over the weekend, WNBA hosted their 2024 draft with Catlin Clark coming in at number 1 in the Indiana Fever. And for some reason, this sparked a lot of conversation regarding, pay in the WNBA. And for those who don't know, my second love when it comes to sports is basketball. And this topic sparked a lot of conversation. And I wanted to put my 2 cents in and be like, you know what? Are they being underpaid? Are they being undervalued? Or is this just appropriate for the level of basketball that they're playing? Well, it seems like a lot of people were upset that some of these, rookies are only getting paid $70,000 a year. And it's just mind-boggling when people in the NBA are getting paid millions coming straight out of the draft.
Can we talk about Catlin Clark's salary for a second? Catlin Clark was the number 1 overall draft pick for the WNBA yesterday, and she's contracted to play for just over $300,000 for 4 years. So she's making $300K over the time span of 4 years. Compare this to the men's number 1 overall draft pick for the NBA last year, which was Victor Wembanyama. His salary, his contract was for over $50 million for 4 years. Catlin Clark will make just over $70K in her rookie year in the WNBA, whereas Victor Wembanyama made $12 million in his rookie year. Why is Catlin Clark going to be making less than some of the finance bros in New York City? I understand that the NBA has a much more storied history and has much higher ratings, but Catlin Clark has kind of been changing the game for women's sports over these past couple of years. Since Catlin Clark stepped onto the scene, when have you heard of women's basketball this much? So I'm just kind of confused how the WNBA and Indiana Fever's contracted her that little of a payment. Maybe I just am not educated on this. I don't know. So can someone please tell me why Catlin Clark is going to be making less than some of the finance bros in New York City? Because this just really doesn't add up to me.
And the people who really were upset were the ladies at The View. It seems like these women have got a lot to say recently. I'm not going to lie. Let's have a look.
A breakout college hoop superstar and number 1 draft pick Catlin Clark just signed with the NBA's Indiana Fever for, and are you ready? $76,000. In fact, the entire, listen to me.
Gosh.
Listen to this, because if you thought that was some way to hear this. The entire Fever payroll is $1.2 million. Less. That is less than the minimum salary for a single NBA player with a year's experience. So the women have the headlines, they have the fans, they have the viewers. When the hell are they going to get paid?
What? See, this is what I hate about these types of conversations. It's never specific. It's very generic. Oh, they have the fans, brand recognition. They have, the accomplishments. They have X, Y, and Z. No. If you're trying to compare the WNBA to the NBA, you're comparing, I won't say apples and oranges. You're more like comparing oranges to clementines. For those who are uninitiated, clementines are basically tangerines. They look the same, but when you peel back the layers, you realize, these are very different. One's bigger, one's more, easily accessible, one's, more favored, and the other one, I might go to it if there's nothing else about. Yeah, I'll go to it if there's nothing else about. Come on, stop being disingenuous and be specific, because this is a specific issue.
I understand why, because ESPN, who we work for, also part of the Disney thing, they came in and swooped in and said, okay, we're going to start to do this. I don't understand why they didn't say, and I know that there's a re-up coming.
There is.
But they should have kissed this deal by taking care of all of the WNBA and giving them enough money for a bump up, because you have another deal to make. But they should have sweetened that deal.
Let me just put it into context a little bit, because it does seem terribly unfair, right? The salary amount. I'm on the WNBA Board of Advocates.
Yeah, I know.
So we were working on this collective bargaining agreement. By the way, the new collective bargaining agreement that was signed in 2020 gave the players a 53% increase in salary.
So that's how bad it was.
Now, in context, though, they also got better travel arrangements, because they were actually putting these very tall women in coach. They were sharing hotel rooms.
Yeah.
They were riding terrible buses. So we came a long way.
Oh, boo-hoo, cry me a river. Your young fledgling league has to, sleep in the same hotel rooms with the other teammates. They have to take, serviceable transport. They can't just go flying everywhere. They have to take, long hauls. I'm sorry, but that's what happens when you're not making money. You have to make ends meet. I'm sorry. You can't pay people more money when you're barely able to stay afloat. And let's be honest, the WNBA hasn't been making money since its inception. The NBA subsidizes the WNBA in a tune of I think it's 10 million a year or whatever is needed, so that they are basically cutting even against all their costs. So I hear you, it's not great. But for you to compare the NBA to the WNBA in that terms of, they get more luxuries, they get more better accommodation, the transport's better, the food's better, that's because they're making more money. First, you need to make more money, and then you'll get the benefits. It doesn't work the other way around. And how do you get more money? Gaining more interest, gaining more fans, gaining more viewers. And if your product isn't doing that, you need to find ways of doing it. Oh, do we need younger players? Oh, let's try and get more, let's make a push to get younger players. Some way, somehow, change the rules up. They can come out of high school or something. Let's, encourage the coaches to play young players coming fresh out of college who's still got their brand recognition from the, NCAA tournament. Let's push the younger faces. The old ones are going to be there. The ones who do nothing are going to be there. But let's try and evolve. Let's try and get some new blood in. Nope. Still the same old faces. Hogging the lane, hogging the ball, hogging the paint. Don't want to move from their position. I've been here. I paid my dues. Young buck, you have to sit down and hold this bench until I'm done, until I'm washed, until I'm cooked. And then you can cook. By that time, interest in that player is gone. And I hope this ain't going to happen to Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese or all the young, ballers that are coming out from this year and previous years and coming soon. I hope they get the ability to showcase their talents and use and leverage that clout that they gain from the NCAA tournaments to actually inject some interest into the WNBA, because I love basketball. And when I tell you, college basketball, especially women's college basketball, is different. It's different to the NBA, it's different to the WNBA, it's different. I don't know what it is seeing females go at each other in a very competitive atmosphere, with a crowd going, with the cheers, seeing great plays, great coaches, competitive environment, and, get the spirit that it matters. Whereas when you watch the WNBA, what? atmosphere? What's that? Does this game matter? What game is this? How many games do they play here? What, 32? What? That's nothing. What's the playoffs like? Dead? Nah. Let me watch something else. Let me continue watching football. I'm sorry, that's how it is. That's the honest opinion about the WNBA. Female basketball is fine. It's just the WNBA that's trash. I'm sorry. Overseas female basketball, lit. Competitive, it matters. You see the people in the local areas internationally watching the games. Do you hear them man crying? I've never once seen a female basketball league from anywhere else complain about how much they're getting paid, how much they're doing this, or, this ain't fair, that ain't fair. Nothing. But it's always the WNBA complaining about, we don't get this, we don't get that, we don't get this. We're not as well recognized as our talents desire or our efforts. I'm sorry, life ain't fair. It is what it is. You chose to play professional basketball. You knew what you were getting to before you even got there. So complaining now ain't gonna solve it. Just work in silence. Collective bargain your way into a better deal so you can get more of whatever is left. But the WNBA can only give you so much, and it's just not going to be enough until the bottom line is increased.
From where we were. But the bottom line is, the NBA has been in existence for 15 more years than the WNBA.
And within those first 15 years, I guarantee those players were doing the same thing as these women were doing right now, or previously, having to take. I've heard, Wilt Chamberlain talk about, oh my gosh, the stories, the hotel rooms, the transport. He was telling bare stories about how it was just not great compared to how it is now. And that's why there's a lot of jealousy from the older generations of ballers looking at these new books, getting paid millions, and they're like, damn, if only I had that money when I was playing, life would be really, really good right now. But it is what it is. It's the ways. It's just the times, It is what it is. Basketball wasn't popping then, but it's popping now. Hopefully, basketball in the female sense, in the professional sense, in America in terms of WNBA, don't get twisted, the WNBA ain't the only female league out here, right? That's why you see a lot of female American ballers going overseas to play, because you just get more money. So it's not even just female basketball, it's just the WNBA is just not it.
They do bring in more money. They bring in about, several $1 billion as opposed to several $1 million.
Exactly. That's a massive disparity.
But times have changed. Mm-hmm. We know that this college basketball game was viewed by more people than all the men's college basketball games.
Yes, that's facts. That's facts. But there's reasons for that. And let me tell you the reasons for that. The reasons why college basketball games for the female side has more audience than the NBA and even sometimes the men's NCAA tournaments is because there's already a built-in audience. These are basically institutions, not just basketball clubs. These are universities. So for you to be comparing the institutes of college basketball to the franchises of the WNBA is comparing apples and pears. They look similar, but different shapes. Different shapes, different strokes, because these institutions in college have been around for centuries. Not even decades, centuries. They've got built-in fan bases because, that player's father went here, that player's mother went here, their grandmother went here. There's a whole family lineage, the whole local community rallying around them. International people who went to that college or who went to that university are supporting from overseas. Is a novelty because this is female competitive basketball that everyone cares about because of the built-in factors. And because the ballers are so good at that young age, more eyes, more endorsements, more intellectual property for them to leverage off and say, image rights, I'm getting 50K for that, 100K for this. Thankfully, college basketball players, college players in general, who obviously not everyone, they can finally earn some money in terms of image rights. And that's a massive step. Because before, it was criminal. They weren't getting paid nothing. They weren't allowed to get paid. That's the thing. There's a difference between not endorsing them and not pushing them. But then it's another saying you can't make money, period, when they're the ones who bring it. Because, obviously the brand recognition of, the institutes, right? If you put, USC or, Texas State or Ohio State or Georgia Tech or just loads of Duke University, Kansas, Kentucky, if you blur their logos, their team logos, you'll be able to recognize what team that is or what university that is. Whereas with the WNBA, you'll be struggling, bro. You'll be struggling unless you're a proper baller, a proper ball geek. You'll be struggling. That's like putting a blurred up image of Manchester United's logo crest comparing to the blurred image of Accrington Stanley. It's just different leagues, bro. And that's the problem. The WNBA is supposed to be up here and the college is supposed to be right here, but in fact it's the opposite way around. And that is the sad thing about it. And that's, I'm sorry, but it's the fault of the people running the WNBA. It's the fault of the culture. It's the fault of the coaches. It's the fault of the players. It's their fault. It's their fault. I'm sorry. There's no one to blame but them.
Revenue. It's that 40% of NBA league revenues go to player salaries in the NBA. In the WNBA, they only put forth 10%. Yeah. So this isn't about they make billions, they make millions. This is a crappy deal.
That's what it is
but
because a new person, a new group has come in and could have sweetened all of that.
They should have,
as a bump to the WNBA.
It makes no sense. Why would you sweeten something that's been failing? Why would you sweeten something that has been losing money since its inception? Why would you sweeten that deal? It makes no sense. These people are losing money. They're not making money. That's why they could only pay 10% of their turnover to their staff. It's because they need to cover for everything else. Literally, NBA basketball players put up more money than these people generate. They donate more of their own money than they turn over themselves. Kyrie Irving donated money to these women during COVID when people weren't paying. And what did he get? Some side-eye comment. They didn't back him. Nothing. No support. Whereas NBA players are supposed to be showing support every single time that there's a WNBA game. But then you have tweets from, the WNBA superstars saying, have you ever been to a game? Have you done this? What have you done to support us? Da, 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 da. I mean, it's like either you're damned or you don't. Iguodala, he got that treatment. An NBA legend. He got that treatment. Yeah. No wonder you guys aren't pulling any viewers. If that's the attitude your players have, your veteran, your stars, no wonder why these young bucks can't come through and make a name for themselves straight out of college. Because players like that are the ones that are stifling them. Those are the ones that are going to be bitter because they're like, oh, you think you can cook on my team? This is my team. This ain't your team. I hear, everyone's competitive, but there's this tribalism when it comes to female sports, especially the WNBA, that is very catty. If you ain't with the clique or if you ain't perceived to be one of us, if you don't play your role, if you want to break out the mold and make a name for yourself, there's going to be barriers. There's going to be players on your team, on the other team. There's going to be coaches saying, no, that's not how we do it here. We're going to pound you into the dirt until you conform to how we do things over here. And that's what's wrong with the WNBA. It's not about the hoops. It's not about it being too tall. It's not about the lack of athleticism. That's not the core thing. The core thing is how the players, the coaches, all work together. They're not working cohesively. It's just as simple as that.
Money they're bringing in. The Fanatics sold more Clark jerseys in 1 hour after she was drafted than any other sport or player ever.
Yes.
Well,
that money,
and I think we're going to see a change. There's no question with the new collective bargaining agreement.
See. Yeah,
I think we're going to see a change.
The key is because the critics will say, well, it's the economics. They don't bring in as much revenue. But we learned from women's soccer that if you invest in promoting, in being on commercials, advertising, the viewers
remember there was no.
Stop it. You're doing it again. You're doing it again. Comparing apples. Now you're really comparing apples and oranges. This ain't no pear thing. Apples and oranges. You're comparing basically a fledgling, struggling league to the World Cup. This ain't franchises versus institutions no more. This is franchises versus a whole country, a whole built-in continent supporting you, a whole super country supporting this one team. Only a select handful of 24 women get picked for that squad, and only 11 people actually get on the pitch at any one time. You're comparing how much they get paid and how well they do because they're winning. Don't get me twisted. If this US team was trash, they wouldn't be getting paid all these sponsorship deals. And that's the main thing. They're getting it from sponsorship deals. And obviously the national team has to pay them a substantial bit because they're winning. But let's not act like a vast proportion of their money that they get in from sponsorships. And that's how it's been for these types of players. For these players who aren't on stupid high contracts because their league ain't generating the revenue as a whole. They get it from other sources, doing X, Y, and Z, being a face of this, being a face of that. So it's not like they can't work other places. And with the WNBA's schedule of only playing less than half of the NBA schedule of, I think it's like 30-something games, they've got other time during the year to go overseas and make more money than they would in the WNBA. So what are we really complaining about?
WNBA to watch.
Correct.
They didn't film it. They didn't show it.
U.S. women's soccer ended up being more profitable than the men's team, and it took the league so long to catch up. If you invest...
It's because they're winning, bro. The U.S. men's are trash. The U.S. women are better. They're doing better comparatively. But it doesn't distract from the fact that they're still being supported by a massive country. Not some franchise, not some institution, a whole goddamn country. So you can't compare, oh, these women over here are doing so much better. How come these women aren't? Well, look at the underlying factors. Be a human and use your head.
In the players, in the merchandising, the viewers will be there.
And the advertisers don't pay the WNBA broadcast as much as they pay the NBA broadcast. But again,
ESPN makes those deals. I've put a lot of this on ESPN because I feel like if you're going to go for a brand new thing and you're going to, because they're not making any money, so it's a good deal for you at the moment. You're going to have to come in and collective bargain late next year. But my feeling was, listen, when you took them on, you should have said, we can't pay everybody what they're getting, but we're going to give you a jump. And I think you still have time to do that because these numbers, and you didn't used to show the WNBA. Let's be honest, but you weren't interested in women's sports.
They were not. And can I just add this one thing?
Yeah,
this is why Brittany Griner was in Russia and got detained for 10 months.
Stop the cap. Stop the cap right now. Stop the cap.
No, the reason why Brittany Griner was in Russia and detained for 10 months was because she tried bringing illegal substances. Stop the cap. Stop the cap. If she didn't do that, she would have gone there, made a bag of food ball, and then flown right back and catch the next WNBA season. Stop it.
Let's remember that. She was detained because a Russian team paid her $1 million a year. She just extended her contract with the WNBA for $150,000.
Yeah.
Maybe Marjorie Taylor Greene should move.
Oh wow, $150,000. That's chump change, man. That's terrible. If you think that's terrible, why don't you give her some more money from your own husband's bank account? How about that, huh? Because I know for a fact all these women over here, they're either making millions or their husbands are making millions. So, if you want the WNBA to be supported so much, why don't you put up your money so that they can get fed more? I'm tired. Anyways, I did not expect a 4-minute video to take up 20 minutes or so, but let me know what you think. Do you think I'm out of pocket? Are my facts all wrong? Do you think I need to get back in my lane and shut up and stick to football or my other commentary type of videos? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Super thanks is very much appreciated. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.
I be kidding on my foes, even though I got it all on my own. Success sweet, yeah, it tastes like honeycomb. Dropping blood tears and even breaking bones. I'm sipping on Patron while aiming for the throne.